Sometimes you may notice a tweet that receives a ton of engagement, with numerous other parties replying and retweeting. Maybe it was a tweet of your own, or maybe it was from a competitor. Maybe the tweet was favorable to you, and maybe it was anything but favorable. Whatever the case, there can be something to be learned about why there was so much engagement and what exactly all the engagement was about. In this video, I'm going to show you how to quickly analyze all of the engagement around a single tweet so that you're able to clearly understand why it was receiving the attention that it did, who was engaging with it, and what they were saying. Let's imagine that we work at a large medical society that's focused on the specialty of cardiology. And each year we host a huge congress in which our membership and other interested parties attend to learn about the latest developments in this area of specialty. With the event having just concluded, we're already focused on next year's planning, and understanding what subjects created the most discussion among attendees at this year's event is sure to give us some insights. So we decide that we're going to look at tweets that receive the most significant engagement from others, specifically from other doctors. And once those tweets are identified, we'll look at the engagement itself to get a sense of what caused so much discussion and what it was about. So to start with, we're going to create our dashboard. And I'm going to come right up here to the search field, and I'm going to type in the hashtag for our event, ESC Congress. And there we go. Next, I'm going to go ahead and select my date range. And I'm going to jump back to last year. And I'm going to start this a few days before the event actually began. And then for my end date, also going back to last year, and I'm going to select just a few days after the end of the event, so I capture some of the lead-in time and some of the aftermath discussion. And there's my date range. Then I'll just pick the Create button. Now, once the dashboard populates, it's going to present us with a complete unfiltered view of the event. And note the number of tweets up here in the summary widget. Over 57,000. That's a lot of tweets to wade through. But we've got a section of the dashboard that does the heavy lifting for us, and it will be perfect for this job. So let's just go right to it. It's the Engaging Tweets report. Now, the Engaging Tweets report shows us those tweets that were receiving the most significant attention from others. And this left-hand side here, this column titled Highest Engagements, this is going to surface those tweets with the combined highest number of replies, retweets, and quoted tweets. It then ranks them in the order of significance based on our Symplur rank algorithm, which considers the level of influence held by the parties that were engaging with these tweets. So you may see a tweet or two that looks like it's out of order. Let me give you an example here. Here we go. This gentleman right here had 269 engagements. Pretty good. But right below it is one from ESC itself that had 379 engagements. More engagements, but further down the list. Well, that's because this tweet here, made by this gentleman, was receiving its engagement from some of the more influential parties in this discussion. So we're not always just interested in the number of engagements, but the quality. We're also interested in surfacing tweets by doctors that were receiving a lot of engagement. So I'm going to filter this by clicking on my doctor button right up here at the top of this part of the report widget. And now, all of these are just tweets made by doctors. And as I start to look at these tweets, right here at the very top, I'm looking at Sarah's 721 engagements. Wow. And she says, my top 10 learning points from ESC Congress, a thread for cardiologists and general physicians. And then she lists her first learning point. This sounds perfect. Now, on any one of these tweets, or on tweets on any transcript for that matter, if I'm hovering over this, you'll notice that in the upper right, I'll get three options: history, filter, and tagging. For this exercise, I'm going to leverage both history and filter. So let's start with history. I'll click on it. And when I do, you'll notice that we get an entire history of this tweet. All of these different dots that we see are individual engagements with Sarah's tweet. And the blue dots, and there's lots of them, are tweets made by doctors. And that's one of the reasons she had so many doctors engaging with her tweet. That's one of the reasons that hers was up at the top. You'll also notice that on the previous view, it said that she had over 700 engagements. But now, right up here, it's saying that there's actually over 1,200. Well, that's because the 700 engagements were within the time parameters of the dashboard that we created. But this tweet actually had a life that went on for weeks afterwards. And in this view, we'll capture all of that. Now, if I want to see what these individual engagements actually were, then I would change my view to table view. And that's what this little grid icon in the upper right will do for us. If I click on this, and now I can see what all those engagements are. And right at the top here, I've got Sarah's initial tweet where she's sharing the first item on her top 10 list. And right below that, I see she's actually replying to her own tweet. And that's where she has her number 2 item. And I can see that she's actually building a thread of her takeaways, sort of like a tweetorial. Now, makes me want to actually surface just her tweet so I can see clearly what her top 10 list is. And I can do that because at the top of each of these different columns, I've got some filter boxes. So I'll click on the one on the profile column and I'll type Sarah's name. And there we go. We got her item number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then below that, we start to see where she's replying back to some people that were making comments. Now, if I delete her name here, it brings everything back again. And I want to point out that if I scroll down to the bottom here, this has 20 rows, but we can see that there's 61 sections to kind of tab through. And so rather than hitting the next and next and next for each successive group of 20, I'm going to expand this. And I'm actually going to go all the way to 500 rows, just knowing how many tweets are in this conversation. And now I can scroll away. Also, I want to point out in the far left column, we can see the type of engagement, whether it's a reply, a simple retweet, a quote tweet, a retweet of a quote tweet, and so on. Now, if I come back up to the top of this, and perhaps one of the things I'd like to do, because I'm looking at such a lengthy transcript here, is I just want to surface those individual tweets that have a strong opinion. And I can actually do that by clicking in the filter column under the tweets here, and I can type a single character, an exclamation point. Every one of these replies to Sarah has an exclamation point in it. And that's an indicator of a strong opinion. Now, what we actually have got here sometimes may be enough exploration to satisfy your felt need, but I'm actually feeling the opposite, and I want to dig in even further. So I'm actually going to leave this history view now and come back to my engaging tweets. And this time, with Sarah's tweet, instead of selecting history, I'm going to select filter. And when I do, I get a couple of options that pop up. One is to remove this tweet from the dashboard. I don't want to do that. The other is to analyze this tweet only. And that's exactly what I want to do. So I'll press this button. And this will automatically reload the dashboard. And if I scroll back up to the top, you'll see we're now just focused on all of the interaction that took place around Sarah's one single tweet. And what we've done here is we've automatically applied a tweet ID filter. So every tweet has its own unique URL. And what makes it unique is the string of numbers at the end of it. And in this case, this is the unique identifier for Sarah's tweet. And we filtered the whole dashboard to be focused just on that. We could actually make a comma-separated list of other unique tweet IDs and look at a group of tweets together on a dashboard. We're just going to stick with Sarah's, though. Now on the dashboard, not only can I look at the numbers, I can see how this played out over time, and we now actually know that it went beyond the parameters of our dashboard. It stretched out another almost 2 weeks. Of course, when we look at the network analysis, Sarah is going to be at the center there because everybody's replying to her and talking about her and mentioning her. And when I look at the influencers report, rather than looking at the default Symplur rank view, I'm going to switch my metric from Symplur rank to tweets because I want to see who was actually tweeting, who was engaging with Sarah, and who was engaging most often. And I can see Harriet right here at the top with 3 tweets. Now, with anybody on this list, if I click on their Twitter handle, up comes their profile card, and I can choose transcript to see what engagement they had with Sarah. And here's Harriet's. And when I get back down to the engaging tweets report, not only are we looking at Sarah's, but we're looking at those people who were engaging with Sarah and how their tweets were attracting engagement. Now, I've created a dashboard that's looking at a large conversation centered on one person's sharing of what their top 10 things were that they took away from an event. I think I'll save this dashboard so I can come back to it later and study it more deeply. And to do that, I'm going to select Save in the upper right. And I have to give my dashboard a name in order to do that. I can also give it a description if I'd like to, but it's not required in order to save it. So I'll just leave that be for now. Then I'll choose Save. Now, the dashboard that we've just created around this one tweet can be done with any tweet or group of tweets, like I was saying, by following all these same steps. It will allow you to assess the stakeholder breakdown that was engaging with this tweet, which specific users were engaging, what was being said, what comments were attracting the most attention, what new links were being shared, and more. And in our scenario, we were looking to see what attendees thought about our event. But this can apply to any number of other scenarios as well. Maybe you're wanting to assess a tweet of your own, or maybe something negative is being said about your organization, and you're trying to understand what people's perception is of that. Now you know that in just a few clicks, you can be ready to get answers to such things.